sign in.
Yeah, sign in. Put your email address.
Yes.
What is his email address?
Email address.
Yeah, your email address.
Idris, can you hear me?
I
Sunaid?
can hear you, G.
Good, we're just waiting for Mizan to come on.
Okay, I'll speak to you. Let me ask you 1 second. Hey, well, 1 second. My wife now, she pressed that Zoom thing, then it asked for her email and all that.
Maybe she doesn't have a Zoom account.
Oh, she must open a Zoom account also.
Yeah, we're only taking registered users that are on Zoom. You know why? They Zoom can be hacked, and we don't want you to be hacked.
Oh, okay.
I could have made it more free, but I mean, if they can hack Parliament, you got no chance.
Okay. If she opens a Zoom account, she must open.
Yeah.
Okay, why didn't you open a Zoom account?
Give it to me.
Go to Google,
Yeah.
go to Zoom and download it. Is it?
No, easier way to do it.
And do me a favor.
Sorry.
It's okay. Already 19 people entered the waiting room.
20 now, yeah.
Right, hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I can hear you, bro.
Okay. Bro, just do me a favor. You must make sure your house come in nest. The house phone isn't gonna ring, and you don't have another.
Yeah. The house phone, we're putting it in the room. Yeah, don't worry.
Okay, very good. I'm just doing a checkup with you, right? I'm just waiting for Mizan.
It's there, I think, isn't it?
Let me ask him on the chat. Can you share the screen?
Okay, bring it here. No, it's simple.
You know, my uncle is going to come 12.
Yeah.
So I did that.
No. You download Zoom, that application. You got it, yeah, but? Wait.
I got the Zoom.
Oh, yeah, he came join the meeting. Right, yes, so you put that password, they've got the index of this, the password, yeah.
Yeah. I wonder where's Mizan now. I can't, I don't think his mic is going to come on. We'll have to see about that.
I think what we need to do, just put a message there for all the participants that welcome, and you'll be starting it exactly at 3 o'clock.
They got that in the email already.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they got that in the email.
How am I looking? Am I looking good?
Yeah, you're looking shabas, don't worry. Do you want me to record this thing in the cloud, or can I not record it? It's not relevant to record. Do you want me to record it?
No, I don't record this part, yeah.
Idris, you can start when you see the people all coming on, all right?
Okay. You admit them.
Okay.
Okay, Ruxana, I got it. Use my phone.
Idris, you live?
Using this here.
So what I'm watching?
Just listen now.
Listen.
Sit here. No.
Idris, you live?
Okay. Right, Assalamu alaikum. Okay, no, it won't work. Hear the sound. I'm sitting, it won't work. No. Rather sit. This is echo, it will echo. It'll echo, Right, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Okay, tell me when to start.
You can begin.
Okay. Right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am so excited, really, if you can see my face, I'm so excited about sharing this topic, the dynamics of marriage. And what I want to say at the very outset, that this program is normally a 2-day program, but we decided that we're going to do a series and do a 1-hour program. And at best, it will encapsulate some of the very, very broad ideas about marriage. And what I also want to say to you is this, that your participating in this program is very, very exciting. And it is my sincere hope and prayer that after the program or during the program, you reflect on what is being said. I do not have the monopoly of knowledge, but I have a special interest in marriage. In fact, those that know me, they call me the love doctor. I am the love doctor. So I'm here to bring people together. I'm here to help people to understand each other. And inshallah, I'm going to share with you anecdotes. And I read somewhere that one of the qualities of dynamic speakers is the fact they are unpredictable. So I'm going to be very unpredictable. I'm going to be very unpredictable, right? And I want to also say to you that many people say sometimes that, or tell the spouse, I got married to you because I want you to make me happy. Now that's a big issue, you see. You must be happy and you must be happy to get married. The whole idea of marriage, alhamdulillah, and there are so many different areas. The home is supposed to be the happiest place. A place in which you could be yourself. You could say, hey baby, I'm home, my darling. I'm so excited to be here with you. And she must say, oh baby, I too, I love you so much. I'm also excited to be with you. And that can be done. It just requires attitudinal changes. It requires you to reflect on who you are. And marriage itself requires an investment of your time. It demands from you observation. You need to look at yourself and say to yourself, who am I in the scheme of things? Am I bringing joy to my spouse? Am I contributing to it? Or am I sitting here as if I'm entitled to all the beautiful things in marriage, but I do nothing? And we are discussing this topic at a time when the ummah is bleeding. Our homes are very unhappy places. So I would like you to reflect on it. I would like you to think about it. And there are 2 more things I want to say in my preamble. Psychologists have said that if you do not change within 48 hours after a presentation, it's unlikely you're going to change. It is unlikely you're going to change. So I sincerely hope and pray, having listened to this webinar, you confront your true self. And remember, you cannot change anyone except yourself. You cannot change anyone except yourself. Confront your true self and ask yourself, not only who am I? Sometimes you may have a very high opinion about yourself. You may think, well, I'm the greatest guy on this earth. I am a gift to humanity, gift to my beloved wife. But what is needed is for you to understand how you are perceived. And these are very important things, how you are perceived. The only way you could come to that understanding is when you ask questions. And talk about asking questions about your spouse. The fundamental thing that is missing in our homes today is the whole issue of conversations. The ability to speak with love and affection and to listen. And I'm not saying that you and your spouse must agree on everything. My gosh, that would be a very, very boring marriage. I know of couples, alhamdulillah, I see a very, very dear friend of mine here, my beloved sister, and I know the relationship she had with the husband. They're always having discussions, disagreements, but each one was true to the individual self. At the same time, whilst they may not agree on many aspects, but they were never disagreeable. They really loved each other. And it was because of that love, they could be the true independent individual self. And this is a very, very important aspect. And I want to really begin my presentation, and I want to say to all of you that after an hour, if you want to ask me a question, and I'll be so happy you do ask. If you look at the buttons here, and if you look at it, and you should be able to raise your hand, and then I would engage with you. Right. So now what I'm talking about, and the first part of my presentation is, and I want to just share this slide with you, or these slides as it were, and we take it from there, right? And okay, and I'm prepared to share these slides with all of you. It's not a problem, right? We take it from there. One moment. Okay, right. Now, right. The first point that I mentioned in the slide is we do not see the world as it is, but as we are. Now, that's a very, very important question. We do not see the world as it is, but as we are. All of us are products of life experiences. Why is it someone is always pessimistic, another person always optimistic? Why is someone likes darkness, someone else likes light? Why is it that people are like that? And we need to understand that. Why? And I'll give you one example. If you and I were to stand anyway and look out through the window, and I ask you, what do you see? You will not believe this. You need to understand this. What you see outside depends largely on what is your inner landscape. What is in your inner landscape? If, for example, you are a negative person, you're pessimistic, you're a person that worries and complains, you don't see good in anyone, you look out, it's unlikely you'll see any good. Even though it's a beautiful vernal landscape, the sun is shining, the greenery is there, beautiful flowers, you'll see nothing there. Yet, if I were to ask your spouse, what do you see? And if her philosophy of life is different from you, she's been nurtured differently, she'll say different things. And I often share this one example, the one example of a couple who came to see me, And they said to me, you know, Brother Idris, my wife and I have issues. So I went to the apartment and I just asked them instinctively to look out through the window and asked them, what do you see? And it was so instructive what they said. But the man said to me, I see one lamppost, one tree, and 2 birds. That was it. But she said, I see happiness. I see joy. I see enthusiasm. Then it clicked. She was really saying to her husband, I really feel claustrophobic here. I need to go out. I need to enjoy. I need to feel unbridled. And this is an important thing. I need to feel unbridled. And therefore, so an important aspect is this, that you got to ask yourself throughout, in the scheme of things, who are you? Why is it you do what you do? And in that way, it will make a big difference. The biggest discovery is to discover yourself. Discover what is it that motivates you, what is it that excites you, what it is that upsets you. Because what you see outside, what you really are inside will filter the way you look at others. Right. The very important aspect that I need to share with you, of course, is the whole issue of love from an Islamic perspective. In fact, I want to really talk about this. Talk about the love. The Prophet's love for his wives, the love of Hazrat Ali for Bibi Fatima. It was so romantic. Yet we find that people find it very, very difficult to express their love. When last did you say something beautiful to your spouse? When last did you write a line of poetry? I call my wife Shusha Babalina, my doll Hazrat, my Shusha Babalina, my baby, and I like it. So this is important. It is very, very important that we need to interact in such a way that we would be able to show that love, to express that love. And I didn't understand why people do not do that. In fact, my prayer is, I intend writing a book. It's going to be called Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the Romantic Prophet. There is a particular incident, the time of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when Hazrat Ali saw his beloved wife, as it were, the daughter of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, using a siwak to brush her teeth. And he said, fortunate are you, O twig of the arak tree. Have you no fear of me observing you in this embrace? If it were other than you, O siwak, I would have killed you. None found this fortunate embrace before me but you. And this is the whole thing. Our homes have become loveless places. Our homes have become places in which not much of this love is ever expressed. And what is important is this, that this love has been planted, as it were, in our hearts and in ourselves. And our Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used to call Bibi Aisha Al-Humaira, that be the rosy-cheeked one. And they had a wonderful code, as it were. The code was about a knot. and they used to allude to it. And he used to reinforce it by saying, the knot is as tight as it ever was. The whole idea of expressing that love is very, very important, very, very important, right? Now, what is lacking is this. And you've got to ask yourself, why is it? Why is it that people today find it difficult to express that love? I remember at one place in one particular city outside this country, I said to them, you know, you must express your love for your spouse. You must hug her. You must do that. And this one person was quite upset. He said, where in Islam have you come across this? Where in Islam you found this thing about embracing your spouse and everything else? Then I reminded him of our beloved Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Now, I want to just share with you a particular incident, and it's an incident that I've shared on many, many occasions, and I want you to reflect on this. You see, when couples do not show that love, when couples, for example, do not express that love, you know, it's one thing to say that, you know what, I really love my wife, I care for her, I love her so much. But if she has not experienced that love, then you have not loved her. Then you have not loved her. To verbalize it, to demonstrate it, is something that is so beautiful. And we cannot tell each other enough how much you love them. In fact, I say to people, I don't mind if the whole world is my enemy. I do not mind if they do not talk to me. Although I don't really mean it that way. But as long as I have a wife that is loving and caring, as long as she regards me as a hero, and I regard her also as a hero, as long as I know that, that's enough for me. The home really needs to be that happy place, not a place of contestation and struggle. It must be a place in which you can be your elemental self, your spontaneous self, because you have not come home to fight a battle. You have come home to unwind, to be with your spouse who accepts you for who you are. So there are this incident, and there are two incidents which I'm going to share with you. And the one incident is, it was a brother, yes, a brother who was married for about 12, 13 years. And he said to me, he phoned me up and he said to me, brother, my wife and I have issues, and asked him, what's the issue? He says, the issue is that in all the 12, 13 years of marriage, my wife has never, ever expressed her love for me. She has never, ever expressed her love for me. But I can deal with that, you know. But what my worry is, we have a child who is about 1.5 years old, but he has not ever, ever experienced the love from the mother. He does not feel the maternal love, because I've seen it. She has never expressed it to him. So I asked him, what do you want to do? He says, well, I want to stay in the marriage. He says, what about your wife? He says, well, I must speak to her. So over the phone, I spoke to her and I asked her, you know what do you want to do? She says, well, I want to stay in the marriage, except that my father said to me that if I don't come home now, I must never come back. So I said to her, please stay with your husband and I'll be there in a few weeks' time. And I went there and the husband fetched me, and in the car, I asked him, tell me something about your wife. He says, you know what? When my wife was about 1.5 years old, the mother left them. I said, okay. Then the penny dropped. So I went to the house, I met the husband and the wife after I did my bit of counseling. So I said, it's the first time I tried this out, and this, you know, this happened, I mean, they were 12, 13 years married, but this happened maybe about 15 years ago when I met with them. So I said to them, I said to the wife and the husband, I want you to face each other, and I want you to hold each other, you know, in your palms, as it were. Then I said to her, I want you to imagine your husband is your mother. And I want you to express what you feel in your heart. I want you to express that, whatever it is, whatever. I said, whatever it is, let it all come out. And she started off, I'm summarizing this, words to this effect. She says, Mommy, 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 why did you leave me when I was a child, Ma? Allah gave me such a beautiful child, Ma. You and Daddy never hugged us and loved us, Ma. I do not know how to show love to my child, Ma. Why, Ma? Why, Ma? And she was crying. And I see the husband was also tearing, because now there was a reciprocal understanding. He could understand where she's coming from. Then she said, you know, Mommy and Daddy, I have such a wonderful husband. He's so caring, he's so loving, yet I do not know how to reciprocate that love. I do not know how to express it, because I've never seen you and Daddy hugging and loving each other. It was so emotional, so cathartic. I was also crying, thanking Allah for His mercy. She was crying, the husband was crying. And that was really the beginning of a new dawn. She was suffering from post-traumatic stress. These were all the pent-up emotions. And from that day onwards, she and her husband, the love they have for each other is unbelievable. Now she never holds back. She's very expressive about that love. So this is very important. For me, the story is very, very instructive, and we need to understand that. We need to understand this. The bottom line for me, there are three particular lessons from there. Number one, you've got to understand the unique needs of your spouse. You've got to understand it. All of us are unique. Second, it's not about me, myself, I, it's about us. Thirdly, very, very importantly, that you and your husband must embark on this journey of marriage together, consciously and with intentionality. Because one of the things that I come across as a counselor is that often the women say, you know what, we are married for 15, 20 years, Alhamdulillah, oh, we were on the same plane when he started off. Now I have outgrown my husband, spiritually, emotionally, and intellectually. I now find my life with him tedious and boring. So therefore, it's very, very important for both of you to grow together, to do things together, to share things together, to be present together, and that will make a huge, huge difference. The other area that I want to speak about, remember what I'm saying to you, I'm just glossing the surface. I offer a 2-day program. I'm just glossing the surface. I'm going to speak about some salient aspects, and we can take it from there. As I said to you, at the end of an hour, you could raise your hand and you'll be unmuted, and you can ask me any question you want. I want to now speak a bit about this COVID-19 and the impact it is having on the lives of so many people. And we need to speak about it, and hopefully we'll be able to not only deal with it, but very importantly, we need to make sure that we can and we must all the time be there for each other. Now, what has happened is this COVID-19 has really impacted on the lives of everyone. And I want to just share with you something, that during the time of COVID, many people feel a sense of loss, we feel vulnerable, we are very, very anxious, we are uncertain. Really, it is a huge test. You know, I feel sorry really for the employee, I feel sorry for the employer, the landlord, the tenant, not knowing whether they are going to have work, the insecurity and the anxiety. There is a sense of depression. You feel a sense of isolation and a whole range of things that are happening. Now, what is important, what is critical is this, that whilst we look at it and look at the challenges, what is important, we also need to see the areas that are positive. For us as believers, it's also a gift. It's an opportunity to reflect on our life. It's an opportunity to reset our life, an opportunity to reconnect with our spouse, an opportunity to start having conversations and sharing your fears, because it is said, revealing is healing. Revealing is healing. Revealing is healing. To share with your spouse, you know, my beloved, my darling, this is what I'm going through. I'm going through this pain, this anxiety, and the hug from your spouse reassuring you, don't worry, my darling, my sweetheart, my bebe, my shusha babulina, I'm here for you. That is so reassuring. It's an opportunity for us to reconnect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, an opportunity to get to know our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, an opportunity to remember Allah through zikr programs, an opportunity to revisit the Quran. And in the end, as a believer, we are obliged to be optimistic, because it is not the end in the road, but the bend in the road. Yes, sadly, we have lost many people. I've lost one of my dearest brothers in the COVID. I've lost a few other people also. Allah blesses them with martyrdom, they are shaheed. And even if you go through a pandemic without complaining and being patient, you also get the blessing of a shaheed. So it's very, very important for us to understand what our spouses go through. It's very, very important. And also, the other critical aspect is this. It'd be very, very sad that you are with your spouse and you have no idea what your husband is going through or what she is going through. It's precisely because we are not expressing ourselves, we are not doing what we're supposed to do, right? There are many things you can do. I'm not going to go through every point here. You know, you could learn to meditate. Of course, prayer is the most effective antidote. You know, you got to visualize, you got to be positive, you got to do exercises, right? And you mustn't do the opposite of withdrawal, distancing yourself, isolating yourself. And in that way, what you are doing, you're making it difficult for your partner. So this is some things that we can do, right? And also, right, I'm not going to go through every slide here. It's not, right, okay. Now what you also find, now because of this, many people are now paying attention and they are looking at the inner self. Many of them realize that they lack self-awareness. Many of them realize they are too big egos. There are too many grandiose ideas. They need to change their lifestyle. They need to look at what the needs are. And now, because of that, people have become more humble, right? And not only that, they have learned to show more empathy and they are listening and paying attention to others. So if I were to just basically summarize this part of it, what it really does to us basically is this. It makes you realize how important it is to be humble. It makes you realize how critical it is for you to have support from your family. And in this lockdown, you and your spouse must have looked at each other. You know, I know, for example, I traveled so much
We have 15 minutes before Q&A.
and to be at home for so long, And my wife is so excited, and I said to her, hope I'm not becoming your recurring nightmare, right? And it's so important that we get to know each other. So the whole idea during the COVID is, of course, the anxiety is understandable, but in the COVID, you have an opportunity more than anything else, to do three fundamental things: to reconnect with your faith, to reconnect with your spouse and family, and to reconnect with your loved ones. And also an opportunity for you to reinvent yourself, because the landscape out there has changed completely. Now, the other point that I'll talk to you about is the whole issue about dealing with your past. I came across this very beautiful saying, and it goes like this: your past is a point of reference and not your residence. Your past is a point of reference and it is not your residence. It's very, very powerful. You know, I remember, you know, I don't want to sound sexist, so I'm going to change this here. I remember the woman says, my husband is always historical. I said to her, you mean hysterical? He said, not historical, he's historical. If I tell him, you know what, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, please forgive me, he'll remind me of something that happened in 1949, 1919, and so on and so forth. So he brings all the history of the past. And I think that's important, you see, that you cannot live in the past. You cannot live in the past. But there is a condition that is important. The condition is that you and your partner have to work towards a new future where you do not repeat the mistakes of the past. And that's important. You must not repeat the mistakes of the past. And that is very, very critical. And we need to support each other regarding this. And part of it also is learning to show gratitude, to be grateful. How often we only appreciate our spouses when they are dead and gone. You know, therefore, it is better to give a person a rose than to leave a wreath. We often regret it when they are dead and gone. And you say to yourself, how I wish I was more expressive about my love. How I wish I did the following. How I wish I appreciated what my wife did. How I wish, how I wish, how I wish. And that is a fundamental thing. And showing gratitude is something that we do not readily do. I remember in one of my many cases that I dealt with, and I recall that the couple came to see me, and it was quite clear that the wife came there reluctant, very, very reluctant, because I do not help people to separate, but I help people to reconnect with each other, to go on a new trajectory, to make the home a loving, loving environment. Not that it's going to be Jannah, but it'll be a great, great improvement. So when she came to the counseling session, she came there with a thick book. I think she wrote a novel of all the things that she's unhappy about. But what I did was, and she took, she really took it unkindly. I said to her, sister, tell me 3 good things about your husband. Oh, you could have seen that expression. Wow, that expression could have killed me. And she looked at the husband, you know, askantly, saying, I told you not to come to this man. I told you not to come. Anyway, she closed the book and reluctantly she came out with one good attribute. Then she came out with another attribute. Then the third, the fourth till the 10th came out very, very easily. And after she shared those positive attributes, I said to her, now, tell me what you've got in the book. She said, I have nothing in the book. I am happily married now. It was so powerful, so powerful. The whole idea that if we recognize that we are human, we are fallible, we're going to make mistakes, is to recognize the goodness in the other person. And also recognize your own foibles or your own shortcomings, and to do something about that. And that is very, very critical. And so anyway, that was a very, very good scenario. And one of the most important aspects, if you have this quality in you, then inshallah, you are going to be very, very happily married. It does not mean you're not going to have any issues. No, far from it. You are going to have issues, but you're going to be very, very happily married. And what is that? That is the whole issue of emotional intelligence. They say emotional intelligence is one of the most important attributes to deal with challenges in the marriage. I would very briefly explain to you what is EQ, is often called EQ. Emotional intelligence, if someone has high emotional intelligence, basically he's self-aware or she is self-aware. They listen to every word that is spoken. They understand the emotions that they are going through at any given time. And not only that, they are socially aware. They are aware of the impact of their words on the other person. They are aware, for example, I just said something now, and she seems to be recoiling. I can see it from a change of her body language. And you are able to deflect that. Is basically being smart about your emotions. Is able to self-regulate. Is to understand. Yes, all of us will get angry. But it's about how you articulate that anger. How do you do it? What do you do? It's not about suppressing it. No, far from it. It's expressing it in an agreeable way. I can tell my beloved wife, my darling, and I've told her very rarely, though I must say, she's here, she could testify. I tell her, darling, oh my Shusha Babalina, I'm angry. I don't scream my anger. I don't lose my dignity. And she knows when I say that I am angry. Now the whole point is this. There is another aspect to all of this. The aspect to all of this, when you have a high EQ, if you have a situation in the marriage that is perhaps, eroding both of you, it's impacting on you, you're able to isolate it. Yet you are in a happy marriage and you do not allow that incident to consume the whole marriage. You do not suffer from an emotional meltdown, say, I don't know why I married you. I'm fed up with you. I don't know why I married you. I shouldn't have married you. In fact, you say to yourself, you recognize that the marriage itself in the main is a lovely marriage, is great, but this is something you need to deal with. Now, so you do not suffer from an emotional meltdown. In fact, what really happens is this: if you go through a situation, you do not hold it for the rest of your life. You're able to discuss it and you're able to move on. You're a get up and go person. You realize it's not the end in the road, but the bend in the road. And that's a fundamental thing. So it's very important for each one of us to reflect on our own emotional intelligence, is to reflect on it and ask yourself, what is it? Are you a person that can self-motivate yourself? Can you motivate others? Are you able to read people through their body language? Are you a person that can understand them? And that's the thing, you see. One of my recurring recommendations is the fact that all married couples, no matter how long you're married or if you're contemplating marriage, you've got to make sure you must hopefully have a conversation once a week. And in that conversation, you speak about the beautiful things that have happened and celebrate it, and then speak about areas for development. If you do not discuss it, if you sweep it under the carpet, if you ignore it, then this would implode much later in the marriage. So it's important that we need to do that. It's important to understand that. It's important to do that. In fact, you know, before I forget, a very important question, something we never, ever, ever often ask. If we could ask a simple question of your spouse and say to her, you know, darling, of all the things that I do, whatever I do, which of those things that I do makes you very happy?
5 minutes before Q&A.
Which is it that makes you very happy? The second thing is this: what is it that I do not do, you like me to do it, that will make you very happy? And you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised. You may be doing things that you regard as great. They may be great, but in the eyes of your spouse, it's okay. It's a matter of duty. You're doing it because you have to. She might just tell you a simple thing, or he might tell you a simple thing. And in that way, what you are doing, as I said at the beginning, you are responding to the unique needs of your spouse, the unique needs of your spouse. And that's a fundamental thing. You know, sometimes people say, you know what, I'm unhappy in the marriage, so I'm leaving the marriage, right? He or she goes to a second marriage, the same thing happens a third marriage. In fact, there are a number of studies that have been done. They're saying globally now, you know, in some parts of the world anyway, 50% of first marriages are ending up in divorce, right? Then in the second marriage, the percentage has gone up to in the 60%, and the third marriage between 70 to 80%. But what's the issue? The issue is you are the common denominator in each of those marriages. So it's important that when you go through a second marriage or whatever it is, you're carrying yourself with you. So what's important is self-rectification, is to look at yourself, confront yourself. It's easy to blame another person, but it's far more difficult to confront your true self. Right, the next point I want to discuss is this, and I think maybe I would share this in my slide, right? Slide, there we are, okay. Share, 1 second, right? Share, 1 second. All right, okay, right, let's see.
Siddharth, we've got a couple of minutes before Q&A.
Sorry?
Couple of minutes before Q&A.
Okay, right, okay. Right, okay, right. Now, what I want to speak about is this whole issue, and I want to talk about the differences between what a man and a woman want, right? Now, remember, whilst these are general, the critical thing is this, that you can ascertain that by asking your spouse, right? Now, if you look at the slide, for men, deep emotional connection. The women also want physical connection, right? They want to be connected with each other. They want to be connected spiritually. They want to spend time alone with you. They want to be affirmed. They want to be appreciated. The whole idea, essentially, is that men and women are different. The important aspect is this, that men and women are different. They say on average, a man speaks 12,500 words a day, a woman 25,000 words a day. And what happens when a man engages his wife in a conversation, he is, very economical with his words. But when a wife speaks to her husband, she wants to listen to her husband who does not interrupt, who listens with his heart. She doesn't want a solution. She just finds it romantic that the husband is connecting with her. The other important aspect is this. Men just want a broad picture. Women like the details. In fact, women can multitask, You often sometimes find women in a group and it seems that everyone is talking and you wonder, what are they talking about and who's listening to who? And yet we, men, if you get one phone call at home, you want the whole house to be silent, right? Yet the women are able to capture each other's conversations quite beautifully. And this is an important thing. The critical question we need to ask our spouses is this: what do you want, right? And once you're able to do that, it will make a big difference. The aspect that is even more important is this. What we don't want in the end is at the end of life, where a spouse says, you know what, this was my most unfulfilling relationship. I did not feel fulfilled at all. I was not able to speak to my spouse about my issues. I wasn't able to do this and to do that, right? So I think it's very, very important to understand our respective needs, right? I'm going to just quickly go over another area, and then I'm going to ask you to ask questions. I think I've spoken for some time now. The aspect of what is it that what are the ingredients of a happy marriage? I can share with you 10 ingredients. A happy marriage is when we respond to each other's unique needs. A happy marriage is where there is passion and compassion. A happy marriage is when we are able to speak freely, to have a beautiful conversation. A happy marriage is when we are able to forgive each other. A happy marriage is when we are able to leave the past behind. A happy marriage is when we have the ability, the capacity, not only to connect with each other emotionally, physically, and spiritually, be able to connect our spouses to our Creator. A happy marriage is that we are supportive of each other in each of our domains. A happy marriage is when you are able to just observe your spouse, ability to recognize something is amiss. A happy marriage is when we can help each other to fulfill our potential. A happy marriage is when you're able to motivate each other. A happy marriage is when we can grow cognitively, effectively, and spiritually together. A happy marriage is a marriage in which we can be our elemental self, what's in all, in which our spouses accept us for who we are. Now, these are important things. And the last part I want to speak about very quickly is the first 3 years of marriage are the most critical 3 years in any person's marital life. is a time in which you get to know your spouse. What is it that excites them? What is it that motivates them? And that's an important part where you observe, you get to know, and you respond accordingly. Today, we are too quick to break off our marriages at the beginning. Yet, they themselves said, you know what, Daddy, I'm in love and I want to marry him or her. And under duress, many of them have accepted. And then, in the end, the whole issue is an issue of conflict, an issue that is painful, an issue in which others get also affected by it. So my brothers and sisters, I want to just stop there. And if you want to, I really appreciate, you know, there's so many people that I know that have participated and engaged. We are going to have another program on parenting, another one on marriage, another one on public speaking. So I'm very, very encouraged by the large numbers that, in fact, about 600 people registered. But 600 people, that's a great number, really. And Allah bless all those that have broadcast this particular message. So what I would like you to do is, if the administrator could just identify those who have their hands raised or any comment, even if you disagree, no problem. Please share your disagreement. And remember, it is impossible in an hour or so to encapsulate the whole range of marriage, but I tried to highlight some of the issues and about marriage. And whilst I'm looking for people who are raising their hands, I want to also share with you very quickly the reasons people have cited for marriage issues or for separation. The four main ones are the role of in-laws in marriage.
We have about
the
4 or
other
5
is
questions,
finance.
so
The other is infidelity. And this one really was something very, very instructive to me, is when the father and mother had a divergent philosophy as to how to bring up the child. There are many hundreds of others. There are issues of drug, there's issues of abuse, right? Issues, or many, many other issues that have impacted on marriage. So
Idris,
these are some of the issues.
we've got Mr. Singh who wants to ask a question.
Okay, right?
Yeah, so hi, how are you?
Very well.
I just wanted to know, like, is like in my place, I am seeing like mobile has become the major cause of divorces,
Yeah.
especially in couples, even after marriage. So how do you suggest the couples to handle this small, like it's a small thing, but it becomes a very big issue when both the husband and wife are busy on their own cell phones. So
No,
kindly
what
guide.
you're saying is right. You know, the whole issue of social media has really intruded into our homes. There are 3 things that I recommend for every home. The one thing that I recommend is that as a family, as a couple, we need to develop what I call a family routine, a routine, and in which, you know, at a particular time, for example, whilst we are eating, there are no cell phones there, and television is not on. We are engaging with each other. We are present with each other. At a particular time, maybe 9 o'clock in the evening, for 15 minutes, we could respond to messages that we might have escaped us, people that might have contacted us. And this is what you are saying is a serious, serious issue. I've seen marriages of people, 30, 40 years of marriage, because of the cell phone, and they've been flirting with other people, has become such an intrusion that couples themselves do not have access to each other's passwords and so on and so forth. And I think what has happened, the cell phone is really a want that has become a need, and the need, which is marriage, has become a want. So I think it requires both the couples to make that clear from the beginning of the marriage. Right, that's very, very important, to develop a meaningful family routine in which they spend as much time as possible together. They also have the me time. But once you are at home, it's about you and me. Let us engage with each other. Yes, there are times when you have to have access to it. That's another matter. But you and I
Question
know.
from Asma Sheikh.
Okay, right. For now, that's all I'll tell you, right? Next.
Asma Sheikh. If you can tell Asma Sheikh to unmute. I've unmuted her. Okay, we'll go to the next person. Shanaz Kareem.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, Shanaz.
Jazakallah so much for having this program for us. You know, we kind of really need it in these days. I'm with my husband for 15 years, and I think my biggest problem is that we are not friends. And I really want to know, how do we become friends again? Well, we're not even again. We just weren't really friends. We just, you know, I don't know how to describe it, but I think this is what is the problem. Not problem, challenge that we are having, because we are not communicating. We have 3 children, and it's, you know, we're going through lots of challenges at the moment. But I think it stems from being friends with each other. If we are friends, our children will see, you know.
Okay. You know, Shanaz, it's also a very good question. When you look at this whole concept of friend, who is a friend? A person that is supportive of you, a friend that cares for you, a friend that understands you. Is a person that you feel free to discuss anything, and he is or she is non-judgmental. Now, you got to reflect and say, when did this breakdown take place? And you should be able to discuss it with your husband and say, you got to use a lot of wisdom. You say, you know what, I really, really love the time when you and I used to speak about things, what's in our heart, you know. I would like to do that. And then you can, for example, depending on your own unique circumstances, and say every day, we are going to share with each other what we feel about things. Often what happens, people on the outside the home seem to know more about each other than we ourselves. And that's a very, very sad indictment. Because, you know, when we are told that the couples are garments unto each other, such a powerful, powerful metaphor. And the fact that you recognize that there is a shortcoming, that's a great start. It's a beginning of learning. And you should engage your husband. And sometimes it depends. If he's receptive, maybe you should go and see a counselor, you know. And when the counselor shares his objective voice, I know men, sadly, and this worries me, are not receptive to any kind of counseling. Many of them say, you know what, there's nothing wrong with me. But they don't realize that marriage, it requires both parties to get engaged. So there are 5 things I'm going to say to you. Firstly is you need to confront the issue. Secondly, you've got to find an appropriate time about it. And thirdly, try to engage your husband in a conversation where he speaks about something that perhaps he used to speak about before, or perhaps going to speak now. And the 4th issue is this: if what you're going through doesn't seem to go too well, then suggest that someone from the outside, an external moderator, engages. Last but not least, right? You should not allow this to sabotage your own happiness also. You understand that sometimes because of this, you might become so preoccupied and allow that to filter the whole relationship. But the fact that you regard that as an issue, he must respect it, that it is an issue, and deal with it.
Next question from Tasneem E. I've unmuted her. Tasneem E, please, can you ask your question? Okay, we'll move on to, yeah, Bismillah.
Hi. Okay. Assalamu alaikum. My question is, I feel like my husband doesn't give me any personal space. Like if he's around, I must always be with him, and he's just like always talking to me, and I need to look at him, and I can't even check my phone or anything. And when he's not around, I'm busy with the kids. So it's either him or the kids, and I feel like there is no time for myself. So how do I approach this with him?
Okay, just it was a bit faint. Tasneem, could you just repeat that, please? I'm so sorry. I heard snippets of it.
Okay. I'm saying, how do I get like personal space? Like my husband doesn't give me personal space. When he's around, he wants me to be with him all the time and listen to him and talk to him. And when he's not around,
Okay.
it's the kids also. So I feel like it's either him or the kids, and there is like no in between. There's nothing for me. So how do I address this without making him feel like he's not wanted?
Okay. You see, Tasneem, as I was saying, there are three things. I mentioned only one thing first, right? The whole issue, once you develop a family routine, what it also does, it also speaks about our respective roles and responsibilities. There's also me time involved. It's also when he takes our aspects of the children, whatever, right? That's one. Second thing that I always encourage people to have what you call family values. These values are organic to the family. For example, you could have, each one is unique, that when any one of us speaks, we must speak with love and respect. We must not interrupt. Whatever. So you choose 5 or 6 family values, right? Okay. The third thing is this, it's not connected to it, but it's also very useful, is to develop family goals. What are our goals? Where do we see ourselves 5, 10 years time? What are our personal goals, like emotional, physical, spiritual goals? So I think you need to develop that. I find families that have family values and family routine, they are very, very happy. They have space for their own development. They do things together, some things they do on their own. And that's very, very important because, you know, sometimes some males are very chauvinistic. They fail to understand that their role at home is not a diminished role. They've got to play an active role because they also have to play a role regarding the children, right? Okay.
Next question from Aisha Saeed.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
There are two
Aisha.
questions that, yes, there are two questions that I would like to ask. Firstly, what is the point of no return in a marriage? What is a particular point after which it brings more harm than good if one stays in a marriage? And considering all 4 points that you mentioned of why marriages break, they're already present over there. So that's the first question. And then the second one is that you have suggested that first 3 years are crucial in a marriage, which is true. But my humble observation to add on to this is that there are many small problems which are ignored in early years, and they keep piling up and develop into major problems after 1 or 2 decades. And there are many couples now, especially, that are breaking up after 20 years of marriage or 16 years of marriage. So please, could you guide on this also?
Okay, fine. Okay, your first question, a point of no return. I must tell you, in the 90% of the cases that I dealt with, I always encourage people to come back together. But with a caveat, the condition is that you're going to go back tomorrow to this marriage, but doing the following things that is going to make your spouse happy. We have a discussion around it. You understand? And through the discussion, and I found that many of them rehabilitated themselves, and if they valued their marriage, they effected whatever necessary change. When, for example, when there's abuse in the marriage, when there's physical abuse, when the spouse is living under fear, when there's violence there, and all of that, you know, I regard that as a point of no return. Unless there is some kind of psychiatric evaluation, there's rehabilitation, and then, over a period of time, the person has been rehabilitated. When there are those issues and when there's a recurring alcoholism and drugs and whatnot that accompany all of this, and in which the trust is eroded, and when they live in fear, you know, that's the time I would say to them quite clearly, you know what, that you should have a serious rethink on this. You know, in fact, one of the ironies of it all, I remember once a mother came to me with a daughter. Her husband gave her a blue eye, and she came to see me, and then the husband also came. We met the two respective families, and so she tells me, the girl, that, you know, I'm blaming myself for what my husband did. You know, it's my fault. So I said to her, you know what, you can't go back to this marriage. He needs help. He needs help. But she was insistent she wants to go. Because sometimes what happens is this, when people blame themselves for what the others have done is problematic, you know. So coming back to what you have said, for me, especially when there's violence and all of these things that accompany violence, there's fear and all of that, then for me, it's a point of no return. And especially when the culprit is not prepared to go for mediation, anger management, and all of those things, they're not prepared to invest in the relationship, then I think it's foolish. When I spoke about the first 3 years of marriage, now it's a very important thing. That's a point I'm making, and you and I are on the same page. The whole idea is, if there are issues, when you are meeting on a weekly basis, you got to deal with it. If you ignore it, and what you said so correctly, is going to be the cause of a problem much, much later. I'm not saying that you merely observe and that kind of thing and you stop there. No, you observe, you share, you deal with it.
Next question from Sumaya Suleiman.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
I've just got a couple of questions. The first one is, so I am currently engaged. What sort of premarital advice could you give in terms of the right questions and also dealing with a long distance relationship? So I'm based in Australia.
Firstly, I would encourage you to buy this book of mine, right?
Okay.
Okay. No. Yeah. What I'll do, you could contact me after this program. I will send you a series of questions, right? And where are you speaking from?
I'm in Australia. And
Australia, okay.
I'm in
Australia.
My fiance is in South Africa.
Sorry?
So my fiance is in South Africa.
Okay. I think both of you are blessed anyway. But I'm glad you're going to have this premarital conversation. Just very, very briefly, some of the things that I would ask, right? Some of the things, you know, if I'm given a chance, I would ask this question, number one, not in this particular order. What are your expectations of me as your spouse? Okay. What role are you going to play as a spouse? Secondly, how would you raise up children? Do you love children? Would you raise up children? What is it? What is going to be your relationship with your family, your friends, right? So a number of those questions, I'll share with you some of these questions. It's important. Sadly, sometimes we get so infatuated and so blinded, we are afraid to ask these questions. You rather ask these questions and have a rethink, and of the questions you ask, you regard 3 or 4 as non-negotiable. And if you find that you and him are not on the same page, then you do not go ahead with the marriage. Otherwise, you will have recurring issues over there. So you can email me or whatever, right? Or you can go to my website and through the website contact me. I'll send you the questions, all right?
We've got another question from Aniza Delang. If you don't mind, Sister Sumaya, if you contact Idris Khamisa, we've got quite a few questions.
I will. Thank you.
Okay. Annalise, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
I would like to know, how do I get in touch with you? Because I went onto your website and I have a series of questions that I would like to ask you. It's just, I don't know how to ask them like online. And I went onto the website.
Okay. What you can do is this. Are you from South Africa?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, what you can do is, I do not mind if you can email me, just email me, right? Email me, and the organizers will give you the email, right? Will you do that?
Okay, because I went onto the website. I'm on the website, but the contact page on your website does not load. So I said, okay, let me just raise my hand and ask if I can like get the email address or something.
Okay. What
so if Annalise, if you're registered, we'll have your details. If you're registered, we'll have your details.
You have my details.
Right. Okay. So what I'll do, I'll make a note of it, and I'll get Sidi Idris to contact you
Okay.
on your
Okay.
email. Thank you so much.
Okay.
We've got
Thank
one more
you.
question. One more question from Aisha, and we have to close, Sidi Idris. Go on, Aisha.
Okay, I just want to ask, porn addiction is an emerging serious problem and it is cause of breaking up of many marriages. What can be done for as a solution of this? People are not happy in their own lives because of this. Porn addiction isn't, can you hear me now? I'm saying that porn addiction, this has emerged as a very serious global problem, and this is a cause of breaking up of many marriages because people are not happy in their own marriage because of this. So can anything be done to address this, or could you look at it in future?
Yeah, you know, in fact, what I want to do, I'm glad you asked me this, you know, although I help people with porn addiction, it really requires a lot of interaction with that individual, right? In terms of they themselves must first recognize that it's not a good habit. We need to look at the motivation when they go about doing it. And in fact, what I want to do is in one of my presentations, there's a very, very good friend of mine, Sheikh Wail Ibrahim from Perth. And he has written a book on it, and he is incredible, you know, in terms of helping people. So what I might do in one of our sessions, I'll get him to be part of the panel. Also, perhaps we'll focus on that, you know. I think it's very, very important. It's something that is really, really eroding the ummah. It's, because pornographic addiction leads to violence in marriage. You know, it's really, really debilitating. It really, really undermines the spouse, and you find that it affects the self-esteem, and the ramifications are unbelievable. But it's something that you can wean yourself off that. But thanks for that, Aisha, right?
Thank you. We've got to move on. We've got to close up, Sidi Idris. We'd like to round up.
Okay. Okay. Right. So anyway, I want to say to all of you, you know, really, Alhamdulillah, it was so good to interact with you. And inshallah, we'll keep you informed of our future programs. Remember, this is basically just the tip of the iceberg, you know. In fact, in each of these topics, you could spend a good few hours talking about it, right? So, but we really, really appreciate it. We'll appreciate your inputs. And I want to thank, you know, both Mizan, my brother from the UK, and also Zunaid, you know, Jasad, for his support, and also, you know, and so I really, really appreciate it. And in fact, I want to say to all of you, if you are married, be the beautiful person that your wife can or husband can look at, and may your homes be happy places. Jazakumullah. Assalamu alaikum.